I've led the fight with Thomas Massey to release the Epstein files and demand accountability for sexual abuse. Because Democrats believe in respecting the equality and the dignity of women, and we always will. And we reject, unequivocally, misogyny. We reject it. But you know who else rejects it? Graham Plattner. Those years that he came back were not the best years of his life. He was ashamed of some of the things he said and did. And then he, unlike others, took accountability for it. He really regrets, and he asked for grace and redemption, and he thinks he's a changed person, a transformed person. I believe him. Those years that he came back were not the best years of his life. Most of us have not led perfect lives. Yeah. Raise your hand if you have. I mean, there may be some.
Speaking on the record about their relationship, she said he left an AR-15 lying around his Capitol Hill apartment when he lived here, told her if anyone broke in, he'd rape them to show he's dominant. Said he could be rough, and she described being grabbed by her shoulder. She described him pulling her arm as she was refusing to get out of a car. He had shameful parts of his life. Then he came back. He started an oyster farm. He was on the ocean for years. He found himself. I will say I got that call wrong. And if there's some self-reflection, it is that we all need to see the signs earlier of people who may engage in domestic violence. Look, I wasn't the only one. You had Planned Parenthood. You had Senator Warren. You had the entire Democratic Party. But I did get that call wrong.
Let me break down what happened with Congressman Khanna, because this is one of those situations where a politician tried to play the victim card and got caught with their hand in the cookie jar on live television. So here's what went down. Khanna, who was a Democrat from California, flew all the way to Israel, went to the West Bank, and decided he wanted to go into an area that the Israeli military considers a restricted zone. He didn't coordinate with the Israeli government the way you're supposed to when you're a foreign official visiting another country. Instead, he set up his trip with Palestinian activists and J Street, which is an advocacy group that's critical of the Israeli government. So he rose up to this area with his entourage, and local security forces and settlers stop him. Now, here's where it gets interesting. He went on Fox News to cry about it, and then he sat down with the host, Gillian Turner, and started talking about how he was detained and threatened and how this should be an outrage to every American citizen. He said the Israeli ambassador was lying about what happened. He said the IDF was lying. He said everybody was lying except him. And the Fox News host, to her credit, kept pressing him on a basic question that matters most. Why didn't you coordinate with the Israeli government before going into a restricted military area? And Khanna's answer told you everything you needed to know about how these politicians think. He said, we gave them a heads up. Now think about that for a second. Giving somebody a heads up is not the same as coordinating with them. If I tell my neighbor, hey, I'm going to walk through your backyard tomorrow, and they say nothing, that doesn't mean I have the right to go through their backyard. And if they have a fence and a locked gate, me saying I told you I was coming doesn't mean they have let me in. That's common sense. But this guy is a sitting member of Congress, and he sat there on national television acting like I informed him. It's the same thing as getting proper approval and coordination. And it's not. It's never been. And the host caught him in that contradiction beautifully. Now here's the clip of Khanna and his entourage, or Khanna's entourage, being stopped trying to go into that restricted military area. Check it out.
מה קורה, חבר'ה? דיברנו עם מי המפקד של הפטרול? מי? דיברנו עם המשטרה ואמרו פשוט תזיזו אותם כדי שאנחנו נוכל לצאת, אז אני לא מבין מה הבעיה פה.
המשטרה בדרך והמשטרה תגיד לנו מה לעשות.
אבל הרגע דיברתי עם השוטר בטלפון.
כן, שהשוטר יבוא לפה.
לא, אבל הוא אמר שהוא הולך להתעכב. אז אתם יכולים לעלות מול החמ"ל ולטפל בזה, כי אנחנו דיברנו כבר. יש פה חבר קונגרס שדיבר עם אני נדב, היי. יש פה חבר קונגרס אמריקאי. חברי קונגרס שדיבר עם השגרירות, והשגרירות מעורבת בזה, אז אני לא מצליח להבין את כל הסיפור. אתם יכולים להעיף את החבר'ה האלה.
נכון, אסור לך להיות פה, משטרה כבר אמרה לך שאסור
גם
לו
לא
להיות.
יודע, חלק מהצבא. זה קצת נשמע שיש לך פקודות מהם.
מה המשטרה?
הבנתי, אז אתם בוחרות לא לסייע במצב הזה.
שנייה.
אתם בוחרות לא לסייע, זה הסיפור.
המשטרה כבר פגשה אותך פה, נכון חבר? ומה היא אמרה לך שאסור לך להיות פה, נכון? שטח די סגור. נכון, אתה שם זין על כולם.
Even more offensive than Netanyahu's responses, and knowing that I was detained, an American congressman, was the Israeli ambassador's responses on Face the Nation. He says, how dare Ro Khanna go on a trip to the West Bank, Palestinian-led. He informed us he was going, but he didn't take up our offer to meet and coordinate with the Israeli government, as if that justifies being detained. I did that on purpose. I've been to Israel multiple times. I wanted to see the West Bank from the lens of the Palestinians.
Sir, did you really not know that going into a restricted military area guarded by local security forces was going to result in your entourage getting stopped?
It was not an area that was restricted by military. American Congress people had been there before. We went with
prior coordination, sir.
If I could just finish, please, because this should be an outrage to any American citizen what happened. We were there seeing the Zanuda village, which Yanan Levy had destroyed, burned to the ground. Many American members of Congress had been there before. We drove up to the road, and these hoodlums with M4s circled our van. They started kicking the tires. They yelled insults. They said it didn't matter that we were Americans. And then the IDF came and they blocked the road. There's breaking news video camera released just this morning that shows those IDF officers siding with the settlers against the Americans. Many, even conservatives, have said, how dare they do this to an American passport holder, not just me, 4 Americans. And we need the arrest of these people who detained us, who threatened our lives.
Congressman, it is disingenuous to call those local security officials random settlers. These are people who operate in the area regularly. Further, sir, I have to point out to you that other members of Congress have visited this area, but with prior coordination, we understand that your team did not do that.
That's false. We had informed the Israeli embassy. The only reason our lives are saved is because of the excellent work of the American embassy. David Brownstein, who also can talk about this, had first told us just don't engage with these violent settlers. And we tell them you're on with the American embassy. They didn't care. They said, who cares that you're American? We don't care that someone's in Congress or a government official. He said to say that to the IDF. They didn't care. They were taking the side of the settlers who were detaining and threatening Americans over the side
the Israelis,
of
sir, say it was IDF officials coordinating with local security on the ground there. Here's just part of the statement.
They can see the
well,
video.
let me read part of this statement, sir, from the IDF. Troops were dispatched to the scene, quickly dispersed the Israeli civilians, and reopened the blocked road. The IDF soldiers operating in the area did not take part in blocking the road.
People should look at the video. First of all, there was a New York Times photographer with us. There was journalists with us. There's a detailed account, but the people should look at the video. The video shows the IDF 4 soldiers that are blocking us and detaining us. And the only reason we're safe, and I give incredible credit to the American Embassy career folks, David.
This dude is like a talking damn robot. All right, here's the deeper issue that really gets to the heart of what's going on here. Ro Khanna's entire argument boils down to one thing. He believes that because he's an American citizen and a member of Congress, he should be able to go anywhere in the world and do whatever he wants without consequences. And that is not how the world works at all. Let me explain this in plain English the way we talk about it in real life. If you go to somebody else's house, you follow their rules. You don't walk into their backyard, kick their fence, and then get mad when he asks you what you're doing there. Israel is a sovereign country. The West Bank is territory they control. Whether you agree with that or not, that's the reality on the ground. And when you go into a foreign country, especially a restricted area, you don't get to make up your own rules just because you have a blue passport. Khanna kept saying, I've traveled to China, I've traveled to Saudi Arabia, I've never been treated this way. And that's exactly the point. He's never been treated this way because on those trips, he followed the rules. He coordinated with the governments and he stayed where they told him to stay and went where they told him to go. The Chinese government doesn't let American politicians just wander wherever they want. The Saudi government doesn't either. You think Ro Khanna could go to Beijing and say, I'm going to check out this restricted military area on my schedule, and they'll just let him? Absolutely not. He'll be detained or worse. But because it's Israel and because he's trying to make a political point, he thinks the rules don't apply. That's entitlement. That's the kind of thinking that gets people in trouble. And it's the same kind of thinking we see across the board from politicians who think they're above the law, above the process, above the basic rules that everybody else has to follow. And here's the part that really gets me. This whole thing is a political stunt. Plain and simple. Ro Khanna is thinking about running for president in 2028. He's a California Democrat who nobody outside of his district really knows. So what did he do? He goes to one of the most controversial places on earth, picks a fight, and then tries to play the victim on national television. He wants to be seen as the guy who stood up to Israel, who got detained for his beliefs, who's fighting for the Palestinian cause. But the problem is the facts don't back up his story because the Israeli ambassador said they reached out to Khanna and offered to coordinate his trip, offered to set up meetings with survivors of the October 7th attacks, and he refused. He chose instead to coordinate with people who are openly hostile to the Israeli government. And then when things went exactly the way anybody with common sense would expect, he ran to the cameras crying about it, which you guys see here right now.
Brownstein, he called someone senior in the Israeli government, and finally, 75 minutes in, they sent police force that, and then the violent settlers left and the IDF left, and they let us through. And it was because of his efforts that American lives weren't lost. But the reality is that this is a unprecedented, illegal detention of Americans.
Well, here's the American ambassador in the United States. Take a quick listen. I want to get your response.
In terms of Ro Khanna, we reached out to him when we heard he was going to Israel, the Israeli embassy here in Washington. We suggested he visit with survivors of the October 7th massacre, that he visit the borders so he understands the issues that we have on our borders. He ignored that, and he decided to coordinate his trip not with Israel, but with Palestinian activists and with J Street, which is a anti-government, anti-Israeli government advocacy group here in Washington.
Sir, why did you not coordinate with Israel on this, knowing they're staunch allies of the United States, knowing the recent history of the October 7th massacre? And most importantly, why did you decline to meet with Jewish survivors of the Hamas terror attacks on October 7th?
The ambassador is lying. We did inform his
Sir,
residents
at a certain point, if everybody is lying, you're...
That's what happens. At a certain point, if everybody's lying, then what makes you telling the truth evidentiary truthful? Where's the evidence of your truth? Because they have statements, they have proof, they have files, they have communications receipts. What do you have besides saying they're lying?
But just, sir, you have now said the ambassador is lying, the IDF is lying, the U.S. Embassy is lying. At a certain point...
No, the U.S. Embassy I praised. I praise the U.S. Embassy. The ambassador is blatantly lying. And the reality is that we coordinated with Israel. How did I get through and back? I have been to Israel 3 times before. I met with Prime Minister Netanyahu before. I met with Prime Minister Bennett. If you ask John and Rachel Poland, who lost their son, Hirsch, tragically, I was fighting for Hirsch's release as a hostage. I met with them many times. But I told the Israeli government that I wanted to go on a Palestinian-led trip to the West Bank because I had been to 3 trips to Israel. I had gotten Israel's perspective, and that this trip I was going to go to the West Bank for a Palestinian-led look for 3 days. They knew that. And the point is that just because an American politician wants to get the side of Palestinians, that does not give Israel the right to have violent settlers detain Americans with a passport, that gives Israel the right to have IDF detain us. It's not just me. I mean, Tucker Carlson and others have said that this is outrageous, that this is happening to an American citizen. I've traveled to China. I've traveled to Saudi Arabia. I've traveled all over the world. Never has this happened to American passport holders. And you may disagree with me on my ideology, but as Americans, we should make it clear, no country
I
should
don't
be able to
disagree with you
disrespect
on your
Americans that way.
ideology, sir. I have...
Ideology is different from the truth. That's why he can't back up what he's saying. Besides, they're lying.
no skin in this game. It's a question of following the facts here. It's a question of listening to official statements from the government there. It's also the reality of going into what was a restricted area without any prior coordination. That
is just false. We gave Israel a heads up, and Haaretz, the Israeli paper, said that the Israeli government is wrong. The oldest paper. And all I want people to do is watch the videos. They came out today.
We have,
and they'll
sir.
see
Yeah, watch clips of like 30 seconds. The point is he went with an anti-Israeli government group. So the simple fact is that tells you right there that he doesn't care to cooperate with the government of Israel because he wanted to do what he wanted to do. It's self-explanatory when you surround yourself with individuals who are anti that government.
And we've been playing them all throughout the segment too, so that our viewers
there's a
can
new
see
video. There's a new
what is
video that
happening
came
here.
out. There's a body cam video for 1 minute and 30 seconds by an Israeli citizen, Nadav Wyman, who came out, who shows that the IDF...
we will take a look at that too, sir. We will take a look at that. But thank you for taking time with us this morning.
Thank you. And every American should be outraged with what happened.
Okay, Bill?
Well, Jillian...
So every American should be outraged from your irresponsible decisions. And what's that supposed to do for America? Anyway, this is the same guy who worked with Matt Gaetz on the Epstein files, who at one point people thought might be one of the more reasonable Democrats. But the more you watch him, the more you realize he's just another politician playing games. And the worst part is, while he's over in the Middle East doing photo ops and getting into situations he could have easily avoided, Khanna, I'm talking about, what's he doing for the people who actually elected him? What's he doing for California? What is he doing for constituents back home who are dealing with the cost of living, crime, housing, all the real issues that affect people's lives, right? They always talk about affordability and things like that. What is he doing for California? Nothing. He's over there worrying about a conflict that's been going on for decades and that he's not going to solve with a photo op and a victimhood tour. That's the problem with so many of these politicians. They rather grandstand on the world stage than do the actual work of governing. So what's the takeaway from all of this? What are we supposed to learn? Basically, here it is. I say it all the time, and I don't know how many videos. Accountability applies to everybody, including people who think they are special. Khanna thought he could skip the process, do things his way, and then cry victim when it didn't work out. But the world, like I said, doesn't work like that. You can't break the rules and then get mad when the rules break you. It also tells you the sentiment, the overall sentiment of the Democrat Party, which they're highly known of doing what they want when it comes to bending and breaking the rules and defending each other until death do part in regards of doing things they know they shouldn't be doing. And then when you ask them questions about it, they speak in the ideological, word solid talking points in circles over and over. It's like a repeated song that just keep repeating over and over. You haven't heard nothing from Khanna this whole segment, but in regards of they're lying, check out the clips, they're lying, check out the clips. We told them we were coming. And when it came to the statements from officials, he just said they're lying. That's all you got out of it. So when you look at that, that tells you right then and there, they would rather use outrage to bend the rules and get people on their side who are yes men to continue to break the rules instead of following the rules, because that's how far they have gotten with things, using chaos and outrage as a weapon to justify to continue to push forward the things that are actually not good. And that's why the saying goes, what is good is evil, and what evil is what's good is evil, and what's evil is good. Because the evil part is this didn't have to be chaotic as it had to be if he just followed the rules. But he wants the chaos to be the driving force to simply call that a bad thing for following rules so he can continue to use his ideological mindset to remix the rules to what he wants, which then in turn breaks the rules because he doesn't want to follow the rules in the first place, which is that tells you, like I say, when it comes to governing, why the rules don't be followed even here in the United States of America. So whether you're a congressman going to a foreign country or just a regular person trying to get through your day, there are processes and protocols for a reason. You cannot drive around in your vehicle and not have a valid registration, car insurance up to date, inspection sticker, and your license not up to date. They exist to keep people safe, to maintain order, and to make sure everybody is on the same page. When you decide you're too important to follow these processes or those processes, you're not being brave or principled, you're being reckless. And when it backfires, you don't get to play victim, you own it. And that's a life lesson that goes way beyond politics. It applies everywhere, your job, relationships, finances, everything. Humility and accountability will take you further than entitlement and excuses every single time. And here's what I want you to leave you with that ties this all together. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18 says, "Pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall." And that's exactly what we watch happen here. Rokana walked into that situation with pride, thinking his American passport and his congressional title made him untouchable. And he fell hard on live television. Now, whether you're a person of faith or not, the wisdom here is universal. So when you start believing you are above the rules, above the process, above the basic courtesy of coordinating with people who have authority over a situation, you are setting yourself up for a fall. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what title you hold. The rule applies to everybody. And the sooner we learn that lesson, the fewer embarrassing moments we'll have to watch on Fox News. So let this be a reminder: follow the process, respect the rules. And if you make a mistake, own it instead of playing victim. And that's how you grow. That's how you earn respect. And that's how you avoid being the next cautionary tale on political YouTube. So let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Turn on those post notifications. I'll catch you the next one. On that note, family, peace.